Alright guys, brew day is here. If I'm being completely honest, I'm a touch nervous. First time that I've ever done this, so I'm hoping everything goes okay. I'm going to take my time, read the directions. I think I've got everything placed where I need it. I've got the recipe kit right here. I'm going to go ahead and set some things out, kind of set them in order that I think I'm going to need them. I've got my sanitizer solution back there. Got some things to drop in it as we get further along in the boil. So stay tuned and let's get to brewing. All right, so the first thing we got to do, get our specialty grains ready to put in the brew kettle. I've emailed Northern Brewer, but I didn't notice it until late last night. The recipe calls for mosaic hops. They didn't send mosaic hops. It includes Chinook. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but like I said, I've emailed basically their tech support, kind of told them what had happened. I took a picture of it, sent it to them as well. The taste, the flavor may not be exactly what it's supposed to be because of that. So we'll see. So I've got the specialty grains. It's the fresh squished grain blend. Freshly packed on October 11th, 2021. Never smelled grains like this for brewing. So I'm going to take the lid off here. That's the lid. Open the package a little bit. So it is resealable in case you didn't use all of it or something. Whew. It smells like breakfast. Looks like this is the end that opens up. So I'm going to go ahead and open it pretty wide and down far. Just kind of put this over the top of it like that. Slowly drop those grains into the bag. Make sure I get them all out of there. I want to get as much flavor into this as I can. So what the thing that they tell you to do is just tie a knot at the end of this so that the grains won't actually fall out. These are just for additional flavor. So really what you're going to do, it's almost like a tea bag now, right? As the water is coming up to temperature, you're just going to kind of steep these. It says for 20 minutes or until the temperature gets to 154, 155 degrees, something like that. Let me get this thing fired up, this Dark Star burner. I think this should be okay. Actually, what I'm going to do, because I don't want to just set it down anywhere, I'm going to set it on the top. Let me move my beer of the grain bag. All right, we'll get this thing kicked off here. I've already got it filled up. 5 gallons of water in, ready to roll. So we'll turn on the Dark Star burner now and start letting this thing get nice and warm. So I'm just going to put it on low heat right now. Alright, so we've got the burner lit. I'm going to start bringing this up to temperature. I'm going to go ahead and drop the grains in there now. Just kind of going to steep them a little bit. Let them get all nice and cozy. Alright, so I'll let these kind of steep for just a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and set the timer now. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Alright, so I've watched a lot of videos. People will just let this bag go and just let it completely fall to the bottom. I've also seen people kind of tie it up here on the side of the handle. I'm not really sure what I want to do. So I've decided I'm just going to drop it. I'll get my spoon out and just kind of give it a stir every once in a while. Alright, we got about 12 minutes left on the 20-minute timer. Got my thermometer in here now. I've turned the heat up just a little bit, try to get the temperature up on the water. Also, in the meantime, while I was waiting, got a pot of warm water. One of the things that it says to do with your malt extracts is to set them in some warm water. It's not boiling or anything. It's just warm water. Got them sitting there, and that's going to help it pour a little bit easier whenever it's time to add it to make your wort. So things are coming right along. warming up in here quite a bit already with this the heat coming off of this burner. We should be getting pretty close to the timer going off. Apologies if you can hear my neighbor's dog barking. I've got the window in the garage open to help move some of the air through, and then they really like to bark. There's the timer. Just gonna lift this out, grab the very top of it here. So the directions say to basically let it drain, right? Don't squeeze it. Just let all that extra little bit of goodness come out and come through those grains with the water. I've read not to squish it because you can impart tannins into the mixture. I've also read that it doesn't matter if you squeeze it or not, if you smash it. I'm not going to this first time, simply because that's what the instruction kit said not to do. So I'm not going to smash it. I'm just going to stand here. I've got it resting on the spoon also, just to kind of finish getting out that last little nectar of the gods, if you will. Okay, so that's pretty well drained. I'm just going to set it on my spoon here. I've got a trash can right here off camera. So I've amped the heat up on this thing a little bit now, trying to get it pushed up to that boiling point. That's the next part of the instructions. After you take your specialty grains out, turn the heat up, get it up to a boil, then we'll go into the next steps after that. I wish you guys could smell this right now. I've heard that it smells delicious, that it smells really good. I've not even put in the rest of the stuff. This is just the specialty grains that we're steeping in there. It just is filling this garage up with such a pleasant aroma. I'm so excited. This is awesome. What's that old saying? I'm sure you guys have heard it. A watched pot never boils. It's kind of like what I'm at right now. So most of you may have already known this. I did not. As I said, this is my first time getting into any of this home brewing stuff. This is not the thermometer that came with the kit. The other one that I had was about that tall. It had no kettle clip or pot clip or anything. So I just had to stand here and hold it. I'm not going to do that. So got this from a homebrew store that's fairly close to me. I didn't even bother with trying to look at how you read it. They told me how to calibrate it, so I did that upstairs earlier this morning. And it was at that point where I realized, wait a second, I need to really look at these increments here and figure out what it is, because it shows, it goes in 20 increments of 20 degrees. So 0, 20, 40, 60, so on. But there's only a few marks in between those. So I really had to sit and kind of think about it and do some quick math, which I'm not very good at. So the small markers are 4 degrees. So I'll insert a little picture of that now so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. Just in case you get one of these similar types of thermometers, you're prepared for that the first time you see it. We're pretty much there. Temperature dial just past 208. You're probably starting to see a little bit of evaporation happen now. We're right there at that boiling point. Heat is off completely. I'm also going to take off my, shit, that's hot. Duh. Take off my thermometer. It seems to be a pretty straightforward process, but everything that I've watched, everything that I've read, stir in slowly. You don't want to put too much on the bottom of it. You don't want it to burn or scorch on the bottom of the boil kettle. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a stir right now. And then I'm just slowly going to add the extract. gonna give it a pretty good stir, pretty vigorous stir. This is gonna take a bit. Oh, if you guys could smell this right now. Whew. Gosh, that smells delicious. I don't know what the hell kind of bug that son of a bitch. That little bastard's about to get it. Alright, got the 6.5 pounds of malt, liquid malt extract stirred in. Just gonna sit here and stir it for a little bit longer. I'm gonna scrape the bottom of it as well and make sure that none of that really settled down there. Don't want it to burn on the bottom of the kettle itself. Give it a little bit more of a stir, and then we'll kick into the next part. Okay guys, just got me a little plastic Tupperware dish. I've got my sanitizing solution back here, which is ported. It's got a spigot on the bottom of it. So that's gonna help me right now. I'm gonna fill this up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop in my yeast packet. I'm gonna need it later. So it's the nugget hops. So it's the first one that I've got sitting here. I don't have to have scissors to open this. Sometimes you do. I'll probably have to have them for that. Just goes right into the sanitizing solution. All right, next thing to do, bring this thing back up to a boil again. So we'll get the Dark Star burner 2.0 cranked back up. Boom shakalaka. I'm gonna crank the heat up here. I've got the heat on high again, just north of 180 degrees now. We're gonna let this come up to boil. It'll be time to add the hops. I am sweating like a stuck hog. Okay guys, we're pretty much right there. Between 208, 212. I mean, it's getting ready to start boiling. I mean, I can see it. So the next steps, once it starts boiling, I'm going to adjust the regulator, the heat just a little bit to make sure that it's just a constant, slow rolling boil for 60 minutes. As soon as I can get that boil going, I'm going to set a timer for 60 minutes, and that's when I'm going to add the 1 ounce of nugget hops. I mean, we're close. We are real close. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and kind of sanitize my hands a little bit. Get them in the sanitizing, the Star San liquid here. I've had the hops sitting in this sanitizing solution for a little bit. It is starting to boil. So I can already see that the foam is coming up. I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit, and I'm going to give it a stir. I've read that both of those things can reduce the foam. There it goes, it's died down. So I've got the hops opened up. I'm going to reduce the heat just a little bit more. I'm going to stir it again. Again, just trying to make sure I don't get that boil over. Alright, I am going to go ahead and add the hops. Whoa. Whoa. Whoo. Whoa, we almost had a boil over right there. Yeah, so the regulator on the hose works very well. So you can see just a slow rolling boil. We're going to do that for the next 60 minutes. Next steps are to let this go for a little bit longer with 15 minutes left in the boil. I get to add in the 3 or 3.5 pounds, 3.15 pounds gold malt extract syrup. So I'll put that in. I also add, was supposed to have been Chinook hops. Hang on, let me check exactly what I'm supposed to do. 1 ounce Citra and 2 was supposed to be Mosaic, 2 ounces Mosaic, but it's going to be 2 ounces of Chinook. And I also at that point need to drop my immersion wort chiller down in so it can heat sanitize and be ready to cool this thing down once that 60-minute boil is up. Since I've got so much time on my hands right now, I've done a couple of things. First, I cracked another beer. Second, I started doing like some of the things that I'm going to need ready and prepped for the next step. So I've got a smaller Tupperware thing here, and I've got some of the little pieces soaking in the sanitizer. I've got my bung, my airlock, the tubing, and the adapter for the ball valve to get it into the fermenter, and the yeast packet in there as well. It's probably a good idea to use some of that spare time that you've got to do some of those little things like that. Get your chiller ready or whatever those next steps are. Thinking and planning ahead. That way you're not scrambling at the last second to kind of get that stuff done and delay any of the process. Speaking of, I'm gonna go get my wort chiller hooked up. Okay guys, we're getting close. We're nearing that 15-minute mark. The timer right now shows 17 minutes left in the boil. So at 15 minutes, I'm supposed to add the rest of this malt extract. All right, we are at the point where I'm ready to pour in 3.15 pounds gold malt extract syrup. Okay, that should be good. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and grab it right now. It's just off camera. I'm just going to go ahead and bring it and set it right back in here. Is the immersion wort chiller. So this came with the kit. If you guys have watched my unboxing video, let me move this spoon over here. This has not been sanitized, but that's why I'm putting it in now. So it will heat sanitize with the boiling water that I've got. Need to turn this up just a smidge, adding in that gold malt extract. Drop the temperature down just a little bit. So I'm going to bring the heat up just to make sure that we get back to the boil, and that's going to take care of sanitizing the wort chiller. Alright guys, we're at that 5-minute mark. Now's the time when I got to add 3 ounces of hops. It's 1 ounce Citra. It's supposed to be 2 ounces of Mosaic, but I've got Chinook. So I'm going to do that now. I've still got the boil going, but I have turned the heat back a little bit. I'm expecting that this is going to bubble up or foam up again just like it did earlier. So here goes the 1 ounce Citra hops. So far so good. 1 ounce of Chinook. 1 more ounce of Chinook. And here comes the foam. Alright guys, so the timer has gone off. I'm going to go ahead and completely cut the heat. I've turned it off all the way. Got my lid. I'm going to go ahead and take my spoon down into the sanitizer and I'm going to flip up that thermometer. It's about as good as I can cover it to still see the thermometer. I've got my wort chiller tubes coming out. Let me go turn that on real quick. Okay, wort chiller is turned on now. I've got my sanitized fermentation bucket. Had the small components soaking in is the the sanitizer. I've also got a spray bottle of sanitizer as well. First thing I'm going to do, dip my hands. Hands are sanitized. Use the spray bottle and completely soak that down. Sanitize that real good. Make sure that everything is sanitized before this wort hits it. This is the critical point for wort. Anything from this point forward that touches wort needs to be sanitized. Fermentation bucket has been sanitized. The entire top, inside, around the ring, everything's been sanitized. So I should be good to go there. In my little bucket deal here that I've got a valve. I don't know that it's a valve. It's a connector that is going to screw in to the ball valve the plastic tubing that has been sitting in the sanitizer as well. So I'm going to plug that straight into that piece that I just put in. I'm going to open this ball valve and we should get wort down into the fermentation vessel. Let's see if that actually works. It is absolutely working. Holding it above the wort, letting it, you can hear it. It's a way to help aerate it. You want to aerate it before you pitch your yeast. Wort flow has pretty much come to a stop. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I think I pulled off pretty much everything that I could based on looking at it. So what I'm going to do from here is close the ball valve. I'm going to take out the tubing. I'm going to hold it up so it finishes draining. So the instructions did say if you are short of the 5-gallon mark, to fill it up with cool water until you get to that 5-gallon mark. Filling this the rest of the way up to the 5-gallon mark, which I think maybe you can see it. No, you can't see it. I've got the lid for the fermentation vessel. I'm going to go ahead and put it in place, and then I'm just going to rock it back and forth. Not crazy, but just enough to aerate it. I've got the yeast packet right here, sanitized, and I have my sanitized scissors. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut a corner of this yeast packet off, pitch the yeast. I'm just going to drop it in. Make sure I get every last drop. Sanitized lid goes on. Make sure it's all. Okay guys, brew day is complete. I have no idea what did or did not come through in the last video. At some point during it, I think the camera shut off. Said the card was full, so you might not have seen the very last little bit of what I did. Hopefully that you saw more than what you didn't. But I wanted to check back with you guys just as a final recap, and also let you know some things that I learned today. It was helpful to me to journal and jot these things down. So the first thing that was pretty critical, nothing leaked. From the brew kettle to the fermentation bucket, the bottling bucket that I had the sanitizer in, I tested that to make sure that nothing was going to leak, and it absolutely completely held up today. So that was a positive. The second thing, watch your boil. We were real close to having a full-on boil over today, but I was able to hit the regulator, get that temperature down quickly, and stir. I did get just a little pullover off on one side, but that was it. The third thing, the hot water pot that I used earlier was very handy, because not only did I have my malt extract in there, but when I was done with that, when it was ready for the immersion chiller to go in, my cables from the immersion chiller to my hoses on both sides, the inlet and the outlet, had just a slight leak. So I was able to take that bucket, prop it or set it on the floor, and prop the hoses on top of that to drain right into that bucket. Very handy, otherwise I would have had quite a bit of water all throughout my garage. And the last thing finally was journaling. Like I mentioned earlier, yes, I had a recipe kit that I followed, but I found that kind of journaling and making notes was immensely helpful, especially when I get away from a recipe kit and go to all grain brewing, assuming I get there. That'll be even more helpful at that point. So just a few tips for you guys from a brand new home brewer. And that's all I've got, guys. I'm out. That's the end of my first brew day. I'll keep you guys going along with me so you can kind of see the process of this particular brew, how it turns out. Would appreciate if you'd like this video. If you've not already, please consider subscribing and smash that bell to get a notification every time we post a video here on Ozark Outdoor Brewing. And remember, drink responsibly. See ya.